Welcome everyone to Automation Airwaves, where we are talking through strategic automation. Today we have episode 3 of governance, where we're talking through the global IA market report H2, where we talk about the stall points. I'm your host, Scott Teeple, and with me today is Justin Bishop. We've been in a couple of videos already, talking through some of our favorite and wonderful topics. I think OCM and some other things.
Yes.
But today we're focused on governance. In fact, I think in some of those videos we talked about, hey, we really want to dive into governance. So today is our chance. So today, before we get too far into the topic around governance, could you please let's just define for everyone what governance means to Agilify?
Sure. So I would look at governance as more of the overarching structure to the automation program. It's usually comprised of some executive leadership who are really the stakeholders of the program. They really are there to make informative decisions with an overarching decision maker amongst that group that really makes the final decision. But it's really those that guide the program itself.
No, that's great. And can we talk about maybe some of the things that we've seen when we don't have the proper governance or that executive sponsorship in place?
Oh, absolutely. So some of the key things when you don't have a center of excellence at all, first of all, you're going to have some chaos. You're going to have business units who are fighting for automation space. They want their processes to be prioritized, and without any governance, there is no prioritization. There's also kind of the lack of organizational change management, where we have the fear of the people not understanding why automation was brought in. What's the purpose? Am I going to lose my job? Things along that line.
So the steering committee of sorts of this governance kind of helps not only the pipeline that you just talked about, or the prioritization of that pipeline, but really helping the automation program in the areas of say the stall points that we're going to be talking about later on around OCM and the change management.
Right.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. So if you could, is there a use case? Is there examples, as we've been in several of our clients, helping them through setting up the governance piece? Could you explain maybe an example or a story of how we've helped an organization?
Sure. So we've worked with quite a few clients now, and when we go in, we want to make sure that first and foremost they know who their leadership is going to be and that's going to sit on this board. So when we go in and provide one of our workshops, our Center of Excellence workshop, it's our design and strategy workshop, the first thing we do is we focus immediately on who are the key stakeholders, who is going to be the governing board, so we have that in line. And then we work through certain things, such as making sure they understand what prioritization is, what's their intake method, what's going to be their actual message in their program, what's going to be the message down to the people, and we want to make sure that they have a good automation roadmap, so they have vision for the short, mid, long-term goals.
That's great. So if I think through what you just said, does governance mean COE?
In this case, typically we're referring to governance and the Center of Excellence all in the same term. We want to make sure that there's that overarching structure to the automation program to make sure that it's really got a solid backbone for the program to run successfully and sustainably.
Yeah, I do agree. So when we say, when we think through kind of lessons learned over our careers, sometimes the word governance can kind of mean control.
Right.
That hey, I can't get things through because the governance board isn't approving. What would you say to those who are saying governance is just more control and oversight?
I would say it is somewhat control, but it's not. I don't want to say it's control such as military governance control. It's not a strong control. It's everyone working together, and the whole point is to make sure that the word of the program, the message of the program, is not only feeding from the top down, but it's feeding from the bottom up. There has to be a middle ground for everyone to come together and understand how the program is functioning, and when that message comes up, the governance board should be listening to the issues that are at hand and make sure that then they appropriately actually make decisions downward.
Yeah, that's great, and I think that one thing that we want to really stress is that in a governance board is not made up of just the automation program individuals. It's not the individual who is executing through
Right.
the automation,
Right.
but really around the program champion and then all the impacted areas of all of the executives
Right.
along the way, which kind of spreads the
Yeah, and again, key stakeholders in the automation program. It could be not just executive leaders. It could be members from your HR.
Yeah.
It could be people from your legal team.
Yeah.
It could be people from your IT team. Compromise, or it's a complement of a lot of people.
Yeah, yeah, and I think in the early days of standing up your program, a governance board doesn't mean that we are creating some level of bureaucracy from the get-go,
Right.
but creating what is that infrastructure that's going to grow as you scale, as you grow, right? As you have a for automation, governance isn't the controls of the pipelines and the governance and all that, but really setting what is that infrastructure. So as you scale your organization, that governance board also continues to
Right.
to scale and live
Right.
with you. That's really great insight. So Justin, as we kind of start wrapping up the conversation, could you give maybe your last bit of advice or your recommendation to everyone as we think through what is governance in an automation
Sure,
program?
absolutely. I would say a governance board or a center of excellence is not critical when you first start. However, once you get through that proof of concept phase, you really want to start looking at creating that center of excellence right away, because your program is going to expand really quickly and your processes are going to be automated very quickly, because it doesn't take long to automate a process through RPA. So you definitely want to make sure you have that structure ahead of time, especially for your developers, because you want to make sure that they are developing to good standards and best practices early on before that your library grows.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we talked about the standards and the design authority in the last video, and the importance of that, and then the governance that really helps kind of take that through. And I think to your point, especially within Agilify, and as we come out and we help our clients, it's not about, hey, let's set up the COE first and foremost, and then we'll start figuring out how to do automation second. But let's really get some value in there. Let's get some automations, and as the organization grows and starts to
Right.
really scale your
Yep.
program, then we start bringing in
Right.
that governance kind of along the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that is really awesome. So thanks everyone for joining our episode 3, where we talked through the governance. We're going to continue to work through all of the stall points that we outlined in the global IA market report. But I think that as we look through kind of these fun stall points, we have a couple of new exciting webinars that are coming out. One is hosted by AI World Series, where we're going to dive in a little bit deeper. So look forward to that video. And then also HFS webinar, where we're hosting a conversation with one of our clients, where they've really done a fantastic job of tackling some of these common issues. So I appreciate you coming in today, Justin.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.